Welcome to the Program Design Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Monique, teacher and curriculum writer turned program mentor and business strategist for coaches, educators, and online experts. Whether you're looking to create your first ever group coaching program or scale your current offer for more freedom, revenue, and consistent income, this is the podcast for you. Here you'll find practical strategies and encouragement mixed with a bit of manifestation and intuition to help you grow and design a program you absolutely love. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. In this week's episode, I want to dive into the fears that might come up for you when you think about adding a group offer to your one-to-one practice. So what I've been noticing as common themes of some of the clients who have joined Signature Program Design recently is that a lot of them have had really great one-to-ones. Maybe this could be you if you've done a lot of one-to-one work as maybe a therapist or a therapist turned coach, or maybe you've done some done-for-you work and you'd like to add a group program because you don't want to keep trading your time for dollars and get out of that like training money for revenue model. But what I've noticed is there are three main fears that come up for people in that situation, and it can cause you to freeze. And what I want to highlight before I even jump into those fears is what, I don't know about you, but I know when I first started to think about creating a group program, I thought about it just as another offer. Like I'm going to create a new offer. But if you have a group program or you want to create a group program and you've been doing done for you, or you've been doing one-to-ones, or even if you were like me and you had a membership, this is actually a new business model. It's not just a new offer. It's a whole new way of doing business. And it's really taking another leap. Like it's a little bit like a lot of us talk about, like taking a leap and quitting your job and going all in on your business. And that one is something that people really recognize a lot, but it's really important to notice and just to be aware and acknowledge yourself too, that when you want to move from one-to-one to a group, that is changing a business model, and it can feel just as scary as jumping into your business full-time too. So just know that if you are feeling that fear or that freeze, that you want to get into it, but you're feeling like you're not really sure if you're ready, it really is a little bit like quitting your job. So I just want to see you in that and acknowledge that for you. So I'm going to dive into those three fears and how to move past them. And I remember when this really came to a head, I guess, for me, was a number of years ago now. I remember I was driving. And if you're new to me, I live in Vancouver, Canada, which is like Seattle if you are from the US, and it rains here. So it was November and it was downpouring rain. It was one of those gray, dark, rainy days. And I remember the sky was so dark. The rain was just pummeling down on my car. And I remember hearing the sound of the rain pummeling down on the roof of my car. My windshield wipers were swishing like crazy. I was trying to focus in on the road. And I remember feeling this mounting stress and anxiety move through my stomach, into my neck, and into my arms and into my hands. And I just remember gripping the steering wheel, trying to focus on the road. And I tried for a little bit, but eventually I ended up pulling over and I burst into tears. And the stress was just too much for me. And what led me to this moment was a few months prior, I had hired a coach and I said, I would love to be able to grow my business. I want to make more money. What would you suggest? So I was teaching part-time. I was running my business and I wanted to be able to really grow my business. And she said, what if you created a membership? I see a lot of people in your industry who have seven-figure memberships. So at the time I was writing curriculum for teachers, basically done for you, lower ticket products. She said, what if you created a membership? So I thought, okay, I'll try it. I launched it. I got 35 members right away. People were thrilled with the content. It was super easy to sell. And so I started this membership. But over time, it became so incredibly stressful for me. And I remember I had been teaching a little bit part-time. I was with my toddler at the time, and I was trying to run this membership. And like I said, on the outside, it looked really good, but on the inside, I felt so stretched thin. I was putting in so much effort and I just wasn't getting the financial reward that I was looking for. It didn't feel like I was getting that freedom I was looking for. It just felt like all I did was either take care of my toddler or work. And at the same time, what I really wanted is I wanted to be able to grow my business. I wanted to be able to grow my family. I wanted to be able to have more freedom to spend with my kids. And I just didn't really feel like this was it for me. And I just felt this dissonance between what I wanted to do and where I was right now. And if I was really honest, what I actually wanted to do is I wanted to create some sort of course or group coaching program. And I felt locked in to this membership because the thing is, it actually was working. I was growing it. People wanted to join it. People were really happy with it. But I just felt so locked in to this business model. When I look back, it really was one business model and I wanted to move to another. And I just wasn't sure if I was ready. And so I would love to tell you it was in that moment that I decided to shift everything, but usually that's not how these things go. And it wasn't until a number of months later, fast forward to May of 2020, that I gave birth to my second baby. And I'm sure you can remember where you were in May of 2020. And I remember feeling so afraid being pregnant during the pandemic, having a baby during the pandemic. We weren't sure if my husband was going to be able to even be there in the hospital when I delivered. The fear of having a little baby during the pandemic with this brand new unknown illness. And my son does have asthma, actually. So my fears and intuition were well-founded. And so I just remember feeling so afraid in that season of life. And I remember sitting in that hospital bed after I gave birth to my baby, holding my baby and just sitting there and realizing, oh my gosh, the reason I have not launched a group program is because of fear. I have been too afraid to actually go out and do it. And giving birth during a brand new pandemic was so much scarier than anything I could possibly do in my business. So I decided in that moment that I'm like, okay, when I come back from maternity leave, this is what I'm doing. I am growing, I'm starting a group program. This is what I actually want to do. And so that's what I did when I got back from mat leave. And I launched my group program and I filled it within 6 weeks and I had a wait list. And that blew my mind, right? So I filled it, I had a wait list, I started growing it, and people were getting fantastic results. So I was helping teachers stop working weekends. And I had people who were taking care of their health again. I had people who were taking care of their families. I had people who were spending more time with their kids. I had people start families who had been putting off having a baby because they felt like they were working too much. I had people write books, start businesses. It blew my mind, the things that my clients did when I actually helped them save time and get their time back as a teacher. And I remember this feeling this humbling moment of wow, to think that I was scared, that I wasn't ready, and I had all these fears come up that I'm going to share with you in a moment. And to think I had let this fear hold me back from this impact that I wanted to make and that I'm here to make on these people's lives. It just really blew me away. And as I continued to grow that, I left my part-time teaching job within 2 months. I was TOCing, so substitute teaching a little bit on the side. I stopped substitute teaching. I started growing my business, and then my revenue became more and more consistent. It was easier to talk about what I did because I had this one offer that I was able to grow, to speak about, and to improve again and again. And when I look back, I see some of the fears that I experienced, a lot of my clients are experiencing now. And there are a few that I didn't feel, but I see come up a lot in my clients' lives again. So I wanted to share in this episode those 3 main fears that I see people coming up against when, like me, they go to move business models, because it wasn't easy to let go of that membership model, because even though it wasn't necessarily making me the money I wanted it to, it still was making me consistent revenue, right? It was still an income stream. So it felt a bit nerve-wracking to let it go. I had all those fears of what if I'm not good enough, all of those kinds of things. So it was really moving a business model to a different model. And it was a whole shift that I had to make. And this is what I see a lot of my clients doing too. So let's dive into some of the fears that you might be experiencing when you're thinking about going from one model to another to having a group program or that signature program. So the first fear that I kind of alluded to in that story is one that can keep a lot of us stuck. And it's the same fear, really, when you think about it, that comes up when we go to leave our jobs is we have one offer, one business model that's making you money. It might not be making you the money that you want. It might not be giving you the freedom that you're looking for. But if it's bringing in revenue, it can be hard to leave that revenue source and create something new, right? Like that's how I felt when I was going to leave that that membership. I was like, oh, but it is working. Like it is making me money every single month of recurring money, but it's not making me enough. And I don't feel like I have that freedom, right? And so that can be a big one. If you do one-to-one work, if you do done for you work, it can really feel scary to be able to say like, oh my gosh, what if I don't make the same money as I do with my one-to-ones, even like taking the time away from doing your one-to-ones to make the space to create your group program. So the first thing I'm seeing you in that, and it's a completely understandable fear. The first thing I would say though, is that creating your program doesn't have to be as time consuming as a lot of people think it does. People really make it up to be this huge thing, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. The way I teach it in signature program design is that you have your first outline and you're refining it and it's becoming stronger and stronger over time. It does not have to be all done. And it actually can't be all done before you go to actually run it. Like you need to co-create it with your clients. But the other thing that might come up for you is what if what you do one-to-one doesn't translate to a group? So it's like there's this fear of like, what if I can't make the same amount of money doing it? And then also like, what if it's not going to work as well? So then I don't make the same amount of money. And like, can the thing I'm even doing translate into a group? And that I didn't feel with teachers, but I did really feel it when I moved from doing my one-to-ones with entrepreneurs to doing the work that I do in signature program and pilot program design now. So before I launched signature program design, I was doing a mix. So I had one-to-ones like consulting where we did like curriculum development, where we did messaging, funnels, those kinds of things. And I also did a lot about systems. And I also did some done for you work as well. So I helped people build out their programs. I did so many things. Sales pages, their actual program systems, all this kind of stuff, right? And so the main two things that I really help people with were their curriculum and their systems. And I thought, like this is so bespoke. I don't know if this is going to work in a group. Like how could I actually make as much money as I do one-to-ones doing this? Because I don't know if it's really going to translate, if it's going to have the same depth. But what I realized is that I just hadn't seen enough people one-to-one to realize that there were themes that came up in my one-to-one work. And so now I make probably 4 times or maybe 3 or 4 times as much as I did one-to-one in my group because I have a more leveraged offer. And I realize now that I've worked with more people on the same topics, there are through lines and common challenges that people have, even in something as more bespoke as creating your own curriculum or creating your own systems, because to me, a system needs to be specific for you and your business and your needs. So I don't like to just say flat out, this is the system, right? But what I realized is the more I did it with people, the more I noticed that there were kind of like through lines and themes. And one of the things that I teach is the 60-30-10 rule. So 60% of the people in your program will do well with like your main instruction, your main coaching, your main content. That's all they'll need, right? 30% will need a little bit more targeted and they might not fall within the main stuff. So that's when you can make it a little bit more personalized. And then 10% will need even more specific, tailored content, right? And tailored coaching, tailored teaching. And that's a concept that comes from the teaching world. And so what I didn't realize is there's actually enough content, even in curriculum and systems, that I could make up that 60%. And then I create personalized support outside of that 60%. So what I want you to remember here is that if you're worried that you're going to financially, like if it's not going to work, especially if you do a lot of like done for you stuff, or just one-to-one that feels very personalized, bespoke, is that usually there actually are themes and you see them come out in a group that you don't see as much one-to-one. So you can still like 90% of the time when someone tells me their group and their idea or what they do, and they're worried they can't do it in a group setting, I'm like, you absolutely can. You absolutely can, because you haven't seen enough of the patterns, and I can help you spot the patterns. And if you're worried about that financial leap, just acknowledging that it's a financial leap, and you don't have to fully let go of your one-to-ones. You just need to make a little bit of space to still create your group program too. So that's the first thing, is that sometimes it can hold you back, but truly, like for me, it's made me at least 3 times more monthly than I made when I did one-to-ones. So that's the first fear that comes up for people. The second one is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a big one. And that fear that you're not good enough, that you're not knowledgeable enough. And honestly, it comes up at what I find it's actually not necessarily imposter syndrome. It could be, but a lot of it comes from when you have this new leap in your business, this new level in your business, that's like stretching outside your comfort zone, and your body's like, oh, I don't know if we're doing this. Like your ego and is saying like, I don't know if we're ready for this. Maybe we need to stay in our same safe security spot. I'm going to tell you that you're not ready, and that you're not an expert enough to help people in a group, even though you can help people on one-on-one. Like, you know what I mean? It actually doesn't make any sense, because you've been helping people one-to-one this whole time. But it happens a lot when people go to create a group, is the imposter syndrome kicks in. Or you might say like, oh, well, I can do it like done for you, but I'm not sure if I can do it in a group setting. I don't know if I can help people with that. And I totally understand that, but no, a lot of it is just your ego trying to keep you safe and protect you. And it's just an unknown thing. You can absolutely do it. If you've been doing one-to-one, you can do it in a group, but also know that the structure, it's about creating the structure. And once you have your own structure to follow, it will let go of that imposter syndrome, because imposter syndrome really is like this focus on you, right? And on you not being good enough. But when you can flip it and focus in on what your clients need and create a structure for them, and that's what I help you do in Signature Program Design, when you have that structure, you're thinking about them, you're not thinking about yourself. And that really helps to let go of a lot of that imposter syndrome. And once you have that clear structure to bring people through, your imposter syndrome often goes away, because you're so much more focused on the people that you're serving and you're supporting, and you realize just how much you can help them, and it tends to go away. So just know if that imposter syndrome is coming up and you're wondering like, who am I to do this? Know that if you did it one-to-one or done for you, you can do it in a group setting. It's just your ego trying to keep you safe. And once you have the structure of your program, you will feel so much more confident in actually bringing people through. It will help let go of that. And then the last fear that I see coming up for people is a fear of visibility, because a lot of times if you've had a one-to-one business, you might be doing a lot of work like on referrals. So maybe people are referring you and you're getting clients through there and they're interested in working with you. And so you don't always have to put yourself out there as much as you need to when you do a group, because you just need more people to be in your world to be able to grow a group program, right? And so visibility can be a huge one here. But yes, of course, you can do mindset work around visibility and work around your wounds and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying you can't. But one of the things that I've noticed in my programs is that people have let go a lot of their fear of visibility. And yes, I mean, obviously we do coaching on that and all that sort of thing too. But honestly, I think a lot of it comes down to having your program structure. So I had a client who said, I have a fear of visibility. I'm really nervous about putting myself out there. She had a one-to-one like coaching practice. She had done group before, but it's felt uncomfortable for her. And she knew she wanted to create her signature program, but she felt uncomfortable putting herself out there. And when she created her own signature process, her signature framework, and she had her whole way of working with people down, and she had that structure, all of a sudden she felt so much more confident. She could see what was unique about the work that she did. She could see how it could really support people. And she went to apply. I think it was like 3 or 4 months into the program. She went to apply to speak at an event and she got accepted, and she spoke at that event in front of 300 people when she was afraid of being visible before, because she had the structure and she was like, okay, I know I can speak to what it is that I do. She had her own way of speaking about it because she created that signature program, which included like her signature frameworks, her signature process. And so a lot of times I find, yes, of course, the visibility thing, like we can definitely do inner work around that. I'm not saying we can't, A lot of it is around clarity, is when you have that clarity of what it is that you do, how your process works, all of a sudden you feel way better about actually sharing it. And it also doesn't feel as much about like you're sharing you and you're showing off. It's more about sharing your work and how it can help someone. And again, it takes the focus off you, just like we talked about with the imposter syndrome. So when you think about these 3 fears, when I was looking at them and I noticed like there was a through line actually, is that a lot of these fears, which come down to fear of the unknown, they have the same root cause and the same solution. So the thing that's underneath it all is like that fear of the unknown. And the solution, the thing that really makes a big difference is having the structure in your program, not the offer, not the messaging, not the sales system, which of course we all want to have all of those things and we get there. But the foundation is not even how you package your offer. It's having your program that you feel really, really solid about. It's having that structure that people move through, that you can take your expertise and you create a structure that you know that you feel really confident in. That can take away your imposter syndrome because you have this clear process that people follow and it's more focused on them than it is on you. You let go of that fear of visibility because you have a structure, a signature process that people follow. And so that you can share, that you can be known for. And so again, that takes away that fear of visibility because it becomes about the structure. And even when you think about the fear, like the financial fear, a lot of that is because your work has been so bespoke and you don't have the structure that you know will work in a group. Once you have that structure and you know it'll work in a group, you're going to be able to make that leap as well. Does that make sense? One thing I want to highlight too before we jump off is the difference between a signature process and a signature framework, the way that I see it. So, because I was talking about those two. So a signature process for me is like the whole process that you take people through. It's like maybe you have group coaching, maybe you have a clear curriculum. It's like, this is where people start and this is where people go. And it's like everything that is part of your program is your signature process. Your signature framework is like the visual representation of that. And it's much simpler. And it's how you can talk about your program. It's also like different concepts that you might have would be within your signature framework. So to me, signature frameworks are more like visual representations, and your signature process is how you actually move through with your clients. So I hope that this episode encourages you and just sees you where you're at. If you are in any of those spheres, know that it's super normal. Your brain wants to keep you safe, but you can move past it. And a lot of it really is solved is when you have the structure from your program, you feel so much better moving past these fears and actually getting out into your program out into the world. If you found this helpful and you want to be able to create your signature process as well, that is a big part of what we do in signature program design. I have a wait list that you can join so that you will be the first to know when we next have our next intake. And I like to have like a small group of people that join at a time so I can really support you, really make sure that you're integrated, you have everything that you need to do well in the program. I only open it for people on the wait list and for a select number of people. So if you want to be the first to know when the next intake is, send me a DM on Instagram with the word waitlist, and I'll make sure that you know the next time we open the registration and the doors for a signature program design. So I hope this was helpful. I would love to know which fear resonated most with you. You can send me a message on Instagram. Would love to hear from you. And I will see you on next week's episode of the Program Design Podcast.